When Karen from the HOA called the cops on us for having a dangerous, unauthorized gathering at my secluded cabin, she thought she was about to shut down some wild party, but what she didn't know was every single man at that bonfire was a trained SWAT officer. And in just a few hours, she'd be the one in handcuffs, begging us for mercy. This isn't just a story about an entitled neighbor. It's about how power, pride, and paranoia led to a full-blown police operation, and how one call almost triggered a war in the woods. If someone falsely called the cops on you just because they didn't like your friends, what would you do? Let it go or return the favor tenfold? It was supposed to be the perfect weekend. Just me and my brothers, not by blood, but by battle. We'd served together for years in SWAT, cleared hostage situations, kicked down doors, and seen things that would turn most men silent. But this weekend, this was our escape, our chance to breathe again. After retiring, I bought a small cabin tucked into the woods, just outside a sleepy town with more deer than people. It was quiet, secluded, no drama. Or so I thought. The cabin wasn't even part of the official HOA district, but technically, the gravel road that led to it passed through Karen's neighborhood. That one stretch of access gave her just enough of a leash to try and choke the peace out of US. IT was early fall. Leaves turning gold, firewood stacked, steaks marinated, and laughter echoing through the trees. We had country music playing low, cigars in hand, and for once, no one was in tactical gear, just friends being human. But somewhere in the distance, behind a row of trimmed hedges and a plastic "no trespassing" sign she hammered herself, Karen was watching. She didn't like noise. She didn't like strangers. And she definitely didn't like anyone who didn't ask her permission to exist within a half-mile radius of her rose bushes 81st. It was just a glare from the edge of the property line. Then a phone pointed at us, snapping photos. We waved casually. She didn't wave back. "Here we go," muttered Ben, our ex-bomb tech. Always one in every town. But none of us expected what would happen next. Because while we were grilling steaks, Karen was dialing 911, her voice trembling, not from fear, but from fake tears, while the smoke from our grill curled lazily into the sky. Karen was busy cooking up something else. A lie so bold it nearly triggered a full tactical response. From her porch, she clutched her phone and whispered like she was hiding in a war zone. "Yes, hello? I need to report something. Urgent. There are multiple armed men at the cabin down the hill. Yes, I think they're dangerous. I heard shouting, maybe threats. I'm scared to go outside." We didn't know it yet, but her voice was cracking just enough to sound terrified. Oscar-worthy performance, really. The 911 dispatcher tried to remain calm, pressed for details. "Ma'am, do you see any weapons? Are they brandishing them? Are they threatening anyone directly?" Karen leaned harder into the act. "I saw something that looked like rifles, tactical gear, maybe military. They're drinking. It feels like a gang meeting or something." That was all it took. I in a sleepy county with a small sheriff's office. Words like tactical weapons and military gathering don't go unchecked, especially not from a trembling suburbanite whose HOA status made her sound more important than she was. Meanwhile, we were oblivious. Ben was flipping burgers. Troy was trying to get signal to FaceTime his kid. I was watching the fire, remembering the old days, thinking how lucky we would have made out alive. And then we heard the crunch of tires on gravel. Not one, not two, but multiple vehicles approaching. Fast, Jake, our sniper, looked up first. His instincts were still razor sharp. "That's not local traffic," he muttered. We stepped to the edge of the clearing and spotted it. 3 black and white patrol cars coming down the hill fast, lights off, but bodies tense inside. MY's stomach dropped, not because we were afraid, but because I knew exactly what was about to go down, and that one false move could get someone hurt. "Everyone cool," I said firmly. "This is what it looks like, but it's about to get real." The patrol cars rolled to a halt just 30 feet from the cabin. No sirens, Just dust, headlights, and the unmistakable silence of officers bracing for anything. Doors opened. Slowly, .3 deputies stepped out, hands hovering over their holsters. No weapons drawn yet, but their posture told a story. They'd been briefed for potential violence. They were expecting confrontation that I stepped forward first, hands visible, body calm. Ben and Jake followed a few feet behind, instinctively forming a subtle tactical triangle, muscle memory from years of breach work. "Afternoon, officers," I said, voice even. "No need to panic. You're safe here." The lead deputy, a tall guy in his early 30s, maybe 5 years on the job, narrowed his eyes at me, then froze. His head tilted just slightly. "Wait a minute," he said. I nodded once. "I'm Commander Brooks, retired SWAT Metro Division. These are my team members. We're here for a private weekend retreat." He blinked. Then recognition lit his face like a light switch. You're the guy from the Red Ridge hostage rescue. I watched that footage in training." He turned to his partner. "Dude, this guy pulled a civilian out of a window with a live grenade 3 feet away." Ben chuckled behind me. "Still got the limp to prove it." The third deputy, younger, suddenly lowered his hand from his holster. The tension broke like a snapped cable. The lead officer stepped forward, now smiling awkwardly. "Sir, I'm so sorry. We were told this might be a criminal militia gathering, or something. A woman in the neighborhood made it sound like you were staging an armed standoff." I smirked and nodded toward Karen's house in the distance. She's got a talent for fiction. Just then, Karen came stomping up the road, her phone out like a weapon. "There, that's them. I told you they were dangerous. Arrest them before someone gets hurt." But her voice trailed off when she saw it. The officers not detaining us, but shaking our hands, laughing, talking like old friends. Her expression, utter confusion. Then disbelief. Then something darker. I could see it happening in real time. The moment Karen realized her story was falling apart. But the worst part, she wasn't done. Not even close. Karen stood at the edge of the gravel road, fists clenched so tight her knuckles went white. Her phone was still recording, but now her voice cracked, not from fear but fury. "You're all just covering for each other," she snapped. "This is abuse of authority. I'm filing a report with the HOA and the Sheriff's Department. You think I'm scared of a few washed-up Rambo wannabes?" The young deputy tried to explain calmly. "Ma'am, these men haven't broken any laws. They're on private property, and nothing illegal is happening. There's no reason to escalate this." Karen cut him off like a blade. "Oh, I will escalate. You'll be hearing from my lawyer, and the HOA board, and the county zoning office. That cabin isn't even listed under an active residential exemption. That fire pit is an environmental hazard. I know my rights." It was like watching a Karen boss fight level up in real time. She turned back to her phone and started recording herself. "I am documenting this unlawful gathering, the use of illegal tactical equipment, and public endangerment. If anything happens to me or my dog, it's because of them." I almost laughed, not out of arrogance, but out of disbelief. Jake leaned over and muttered, "She just accused us of threatening her in front of cops who just verified we're all licensed officers." "Let her dig," I replied quietly, "because here's the thing. People like Karen, they don't want justice. They want control. And when they don't they start swinging wild, hoping something lands." True to her word, the very next day, a letter appeared taped to the gate of my property. Notice of violation, HOA Regulation 14C, unauthorized group gatherings, use of non-approved outdoor appliances, fire pit, unregistered vehicles, and property access violations. Below that, a fine, $7,500, due in 14 days, and OHOA seal. No official board member signature, just a sloppy document with a logo Karen probably made on Microsoft Word. But then came the kicker. Failure to comply will result in legal action, removal of guests, and potential law enforcement intervention. I took a breath. She wanted a war. She was about to get one. Only difference, we were trained for it. Now, I wasn't the kind of guy who picked fights. Years in SWAT taught me one thing. Never go to war unless you're prepared to finish it. But Karen? She came loaded with false accusations, phony legal letters, and a smug sense of power she thought couldn't be touched. So, I called a team meeting. Only this time, it wasn't in the woods or on a raid. It was around my cabin table. Laptops open, coffee brewing, and the same men who used to skim blueprints of terrorist cells now scrolling through HOA bylaws and property records. Jake, our sniper-turned-data hound, leaned back with a grin. Tell me why Karen's name shows up on every HOA contractor invoice for the last 6 months? Ben looked up from his laptop. Because she owns a landscaping company they keep paying. The air in the room shifted. Karen had created a loop. She ran the HOA, hired her cousin's landscaping company, and kept inflating costs, thousands over budget every month. And no one had noticed. Or maybe no one had dared speak up. But it got worse. Troy, our surveillance expert, pulled up DR. Audio capture devices with directional mics. Legal? Absolutely. Because we only recorded in public spaces like the HOA's common grounds and board meetings where Karen never watched what she said. Ben played the bait. He called her, using a recorded line, pretending to be a concerned resident who wanted to skip the HOA fine process for the right price. Karen didn't even hesitate. Well, the board would probably overlook the violation for, say, a small donation to our landscaping fund. Unofficially, boom, extortion. Next, we arranged a landscaping consultation using a dummy email and address linked to a fake property. Karen's cousin showed up, driving a company van purchased under HOA funds, and admitted they mostly only service one house anyway. We had him on fraud, misuse of funds, wire fraud. We were stacking bricks of evidence. The final move? We looped in the state attorney general's office and handed them everything. Fraudulent financials, illegal fines, funds laundered through family businesses, coercion of neighbors, and that recorded call? That was a cherry on top. That we knew we had one shot, and the state AG wasn't going to waste it. We just had to wait. And while we waited, Karen had no idea the fuse was already burning beneath her feet. She strutted around the neighborhood like a queen guarding her castle, completely unaware that the entire structure was about to crumble. She even left me another note. Final warning. Next time the cops come, they won't leave empty-handed. Well, she was half right, because the next time they came, they didn't leave empty-handed. They left with her. IT happened early on a Thursday morning. Fog rolled in across the treetops, the cabin still quiet with coffee brewing on the fire pit, the same fire pit Karen claimed was an unauthorized hazard. I was standing on the porch, watching the sunrise when I heard it, the distinct crunch of multiple SUV tires on gravel. But this time they weren't coming for us. They were coming for her .6 unmarked vehicles, county sheriff, state investigators, and 2 federal compliance officers from the HOA Oversight Commission, quietly rolled down the hill past my cabin and headed straight toward Karen's house at the top of the ridge that we followed, not to interfere, but to witness the end of a storm she started. Karen must have seen them coming, because by the time we reached the edge of the clearing, she was already outside in a floral robe, barking at the officers from her porch like she owned the whole world. "Do you have a warrant?" You people have no right to be here. This is private. Ma'am, the lead investigator interrupted, holding up a sealed folder. We have a state-issued subpoena, federal compliance orders, and 3 warrants for fraud, extortion, and misappropriation of HOA funds. That's when it happened. The color drained from her face like someone had flipped a switch. She tried to laugh, nervous, stuttering, as it was all some misunderstanding. But when they placed her in handcuffs, reading her rights aloud on her perfectly manicured lawn, the rest of the neighborhood came pouring out. Phones up, cameras rolling. Neighbors who've been fined for flower beds, ticketed for parking, threatened with liens, all of them watching. And when she turned and saw me, standing a few feet away with my arms crossed, calm as ever, she snapped. "This is your fault," she shrieked. "You think this is over? You think you've won." I didn't say a word I didn't have to, because at that moment, it wasn't me who took her down. It was her own mouth, her greed, and her obsession with control. As the SUVs rolled away within the back, the HOA sign on her lawn, the one that read Pride, Order, Community, toppled over from the breeze, a poetic in the days that followed Karen's arrest. The neighborhood transformed like a weight had been lifted. People who hadn't spoken to one another in years started meeting at the mailbox again. The elderly couple next door finally replanted their flower garden. The one Karen made them rip out. Kids played on the sidewalks without being scolded about noise complaints or HOA curfews. It was like the whole place could breathe again. The county suspended the HOA pending full audit. A third-party administrator was brought in, and within a week, every illegal fine Karen had issued was voided. Refunds were sent out, and that shady landscaping company shut down and under investigation for tax fraud. But the cabin, that stayed just the way it was. Fire pit flags, an all.my team, and I spent one last weekend together before we scattered again. Some returned to their families. One took a contract overseas. Ben finally bought a boat we toasted with cheap beer and steak, laughing as we remembered the absurdity of it all. From tactical raids and hostage rescues to bringing down a suburban tyrant with a clipboard. Never thought our last mission would involve lawn gnomes, fake bylaws, and a woman named Karen. But justice is justice. Still, there was one last twist out a week later. I got a letter in the mail. No stamp. Just tucked in the fence gate. It was from Karen, a handwritten note, scrawled and furious. "You may have won the battle, but this isn't over. I'll be back, and when I am, I'll make sure you regret ever setting foot in this neighborhood." I stared at the note for a minute, then calmly tossed it into the fire pit, where it curled into ash beside old chicken bones and a few pieces of Karen's precious unauthorized regulation letters. Let her try. Because next time she comes back, she won't just be facing a few retired SWAT guys, she'll be facing a neighborhood that finally found its voice. You know, I've faced down armed suspects. I've kicked in doors not knowing if I'd walk back out. I've seen the worst of people in war zones and on city streets. But I never imagined one of the most exhausting battles I'd ever fight would be against an entitled HOA president with a God complex and a clipboard. Still, what Karen didn't realize, and what too many people underestimate, is that peaceful doesn't mean powerless. We didn't fight her with fists or fear. We used facts, integrity, and the same discipline that got us through real war zones. We used it to dismantle her little empire, brick by crooked brick. And in doing so, we gave the neighborhood something she never could: freedom. Freedom to breathe, that T.O. plant where you want T.O. gather with friends that T.O. live, without someone watching every move you make just to feel important. Karen's not the villain, because she enforced rules that she's a villain, because she believed she was above them. And maybe that's the real story here. Sometimes, the biggest tyrants don't wear crowns or carry guns. Sometimes they wear tennis shoes, hold HOA pamphlets, and smile while they strangle the very community they claim to protect. But not anymore. Not here. This neighborhood learned to speak up. to push back. And in the process, we didn't just shut down a petty tyrant. We rebuilt something stronger, the community. Have you ever dealt with an entitled HOA president or a neighborhood bully who thought they owned everything around them? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one, and if you made it this far, hit that subscribe button and join the crew. Because next time someone tries to silence you with fear or fake authority, you'll remember the story and know exactly what to do. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay sharp, stay free, and never underestimate the power of quiet strength.